Ladies and gentlemen, the Wrestling Fans Podcast Ringside Society proudly presents to you another fantastic episode of 15 Minutes of Fandom. That's right. What we do here is we take the spotlight and put it on one of our fellow wrestling fans that we feel stands out from the rest. With that being said, I am your host, that ocean crossing, straight up Boston, flight catching, shot glass snatching, always positive, life is great, repping 592, living in the 718, no cap, straight facts, the worldwide star boy, Remy Blue. And my special guest tonight is a young lady who is doing remarkable things in on the, I guess you could call it the content or the media creator side of things, because she is actually the AEW correspondent for Daily Slam. And it's crazy because she actually knows two of our other alumni 15 minutes of fandom 15 minutes of fandom guests, NYC Demon Diva, aka Issa, and Caro Taro. Everybody, welcome to the show. Coming to you straight from San Francisco, Cindy G.
Hey there. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very looking forward to chatting it up about anything wrestling related. And it's an honor to be on your show, Remy.
Thanks, thanks. You've been actually been on our radar for a while. Fun fact: if you ever appear, and for those of y'all that know that have experience as well, if you ever appear on our Follow Fridays that we do we try to do every Friday on Twitter, it's either because you've been on our show or we intend to have you on our show. So so you've actually been on our radar for a while for a while.
Mhm.
So thank you very much for actually taking time out of your busy schedule to actually be a guest on our show as well. And yeah, man, I mean, I've seen you around. You're on Daily Slam. You were on Bullet Cast and you were on No DQ, right?
Yeah, at one point. Yeah, I was in the bullet cast for like almost a year, but then I decided like I just left for personal reasons. And then with
Okay.
No DQ, I was with them since 2017. And recently I made the announcement that I'm no longer being part of NoDQ.com, which I'm forever grateful to be part of like these past few years. So as of right now, I'm actually on Daily Slam working alongside Carol Tero, Noah Foster, also through Steve Fall, who happens to know for being the puppeteer of Teddy Turnbuckle.
Yeah, for some reason I gotta feel like I've seen Steve fall around before,
Hmm.
but we'll probably end up having him on soon. So Steve, if you listen to this man, if you're down, we definitely like to have you on our show as well. We're pretty much open to everybody, man. I mean, regardless of whether you're a media content creator, if you're a YouTuber, podcast, heck, if you're just a random fan that just goes to the shows and cheer for the cheer for your favorites and then goes home and doesn't do anything else other than that, we would definitely like to have you. We would definitely like to have you on as well. We don't discriminate unless, of course, you're like a complete scumbag. Then, of course, yeah, we will. We're not gonna have you on. But that's but yeah, no DQ. Wow, you have an impressive resume, man. Because I've been rocking with no DQ. Well, not personally, but like I've been like going to their site for I'd like to say the better part of a decade since like what 2008 or 2009.
Hmm.
Because I've known of Aaron Rift, who's the owner of
Yes,
that
and he
website.
still is.
Yeah, I've known of him since 2008, 2009. And then he had I don't know if you know this other guy. I don't know if they're still partners, but Jeff Meacham, he used to do
Yeah.
the DVD reviews for for wrestling DVDs and so on. And I used to enjoy listening to those and listen to those every chance I got. So yeah, that's pretty impressive that you actually got to work with them and
Hmm.
yeah, now you're doing your thing with Daily Slam. So tell us a bit about Daily Slam.
So it all started with me meeting Steve Fall. It happened during the pandemic in 2020. I've been seeing him as being Teddy Turnbuckle sporadically on Twitter. And so I started to follow him immediately and liking his stuff and all that until one day I received a DM from Steve Fall, and we kind of talk it up about like doing like different reactions videos and whatnot. And that was a time where he actually left this other wrestling website called WrestleJoy and doing his own thing. So we did work together to do like different reactions video. Like normally I did reactions video for like different matches for AEW Dynamite, Dark, and then of course Rampage did happen and Dark Elevation did happen. We did do that. We did also did for Impact Wrestling and also for the pay-per-views as well. Like he did take care of like the WWE side and then sometime with AEW and Impact Wrestling until things started to get sporadic with like numerous of like subscriber count. He actually went into like different like channel names and all that up until we went to the Daily Slam. And from there it started to blossom into so many subscribers. Like I couldn't even remember how many subscribers we are currently at right now, but now it started became a whole team. Like it's not just me and Steve. Well, Steve is like the main creator of Daily Slam, and he's like, well, you could say he's the head honcho of everything, and I'm just the one that is like doing AEW recap video alongside Caro Taro, and also Noah Foster, who is also my co-host, like on the AEW Dynamite recap. He's also the main co-host for AEW Rampage as well too. And then we have other people that does cover Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Impact Wrestling. Issa is also part of Daily Slam as well. She normally do the podcast as side with Steve Fall. So that's how everything went into fruition.
Yeah, that it's amazing how like wrestling has evolved to not just in the ring, but like so now you got like several people, several hundred people. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it, several hundred people
Mm-hmm.
doing these, reviews for shows and so on. And it's just amazing. And that actually benefits us because we are like, you know, of course, there's two parts of our shows. I mean, there's the main show where we have the main guests, and then there's 15 minutes of fandom, which is where we were like, if we would interview Ivan the super fan, the
Mm-hmm.
WWE super fan, if we would interview who's a popular the latest the CM Punk fan, the CM Punk fan that was crying, which we've actually been very fortunate to have on our show.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that once dressed up as Scooby Doo as
Mm-hmm.
well. Then why not somebody like yourself? Why not somebody like a Caro Taro? Um, why not somebody like that? Is showing the dedication in regards to fandom of professional wrestling, and that's where this came in as well. But I'm just like flabbergasted at like how much because let's be honest, 10 years ago this wasn't happening. 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have a bunch of like YouTube channels and so on, and even with podcasts you didn't have a lot of podcasts 10 years ago. I mean, to my knowledge, 2011 they didn't have a lot of them, but it's just great to see that so many people are just stepping up. And to be honest, as I often tell people, I encourage them like listen to different podcasts because everybody has their own spin on how certain things are. Like I watch several ones too, and I often compare it to eating a different cereal every day. One minute you can have
Mm-hmm.
Frosted Flakes, but the next morning you might want some Fruit Loops. The
Mm-hmm.
next morning you might want some Apple Jacks. So it's always good to have variety and so on. And I gotta say, your team, you guys have an A team right there, man. I mean, Caro Taro, a brilliant mind, and not just a brilliant mind, but a woman that has like a lot of gusto when it comes to professional wrestling. I was very fortunate to meet her when she was over here in New York City, and very brilliant person, very cool. I was like, you know what, I gotta have you on my show. You're too cool not to like interview and so on. And NYC Demon Diva Issa, she was another great one to have on the show as well too. Very knowledgeable, and definitely enjoyed having her on as well too. And yeah, so let's dial it back a bit. So how did your love for professional wrestling start? What was the pay-per-view or the match that you saw that got you hooked?
Well, it's funny enough, like how I got into wrestling is when I was on a school bus, there's a kid next to me. He was playing two action figures. One of the action figure happens to be the Triple H action figure. And this is 1999. I was in the fourth grade. And so asked him like, "What do you play?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm playing wrestling." And I forget what other action figure he has. All I remember, he has a not a CM Punk, one botch, the Triple H action figure, and he told me about WWE. I was like, it's very interesting. And I asked him a question like, why are they dressed like that? And explain to me a little bit about like the good person, bad person, and the different terminology. This before like I know about like different wrestling terms like heels, baby face, and different terms as well. And so on the same day one night while my family went to bed, I tuned on Monday Night Raw, and ever since then I was falling in love with it too. But at the time when I was growing up, my family, um, my mom, my dad, they don't like me watching wrestling because I was too young for it. I think what kind of seems to be interesting in my fall, the love of wrestling, is because I remember my grandpa actually watched Lucha Libre on TV whenever he came to visit me and my sister, and it was on TV. Like I remember when I was a little girl, he did watch CMML on TV, one of the Spanish channels, and it kind of realized that I think I gotta have my grandpa's gene that I do watch WWE. I do watch it, excuse me, on and off, like growing up because how me being a teenage and all that stuff, and plus I was like moving from the city to a small town, all that stuff, and so I was like tuned into wrestling as much as I can as well. I haven't even watched the pay-per-view yet until I got a little bit older that I can afford getting the WWE network like a few years later. And ever since then it's like, well, starting to fall in love with wrestling like even more growing up. But except right now, currently, I'm currently falling up with AEW, a little bit of Impact Wrestling, New Japan here and there, Ring of Honor, starting to watch it again, and mostly the indies.
Yeah, wow. 1999. That oh man, you
Hmm.
started at a turbulent time. Your parents, they were I could understand why they didn't want you watching it at that time because that was the Attitude Era.
Hmm.
Luckily at that time, let's see, 1999, I was 16 years old. So luckily at that time I was a teenager, almost grown man. 2 more years I would have been 18. So it was a lot of that stuff that I knew about already. So my aunt that I lived with at the time in Guyana, she was
Hmm.
pretty cool about me watching. Plus, I wasn't the only one watching it. It was my cousin who was 8 years older than me that was watching it too, because he grew up watching wrestling. So
Okay.
I kind of got away with it in a sense. Because if he was watching it, then I guess it's good. It was cool if I watched it. So and plus, a lot of the stuff that they said on TV, I never really did in real life. I mean, I rarely did the cross chop, and if I did, it was like I rarely did it, very rarely, and it was mostly in school. And people would, even if you did it, because of the way our culture was, you never really got in trouble for it for some
Hmm.
reason. I don't know why. I mean, if you showed a middle finger, yeah, people would get upset. But like if you like
Hmm.
cross chop, it wasn't a big thing. But at that time, man, yeah, it was. I told myself, I'm like, I because I started watching wrestling when I was like 6, going on 7. This is like 1990. So I'm like, man, if I was 6 or 7 at this time, I would not be able to watch this. Like my
Hmm.
mom would be, oh, wait, Sable did what? Oh, Shawn Michaels said what? Triple and Degeneration. What? No, you're not watching that. Go watch some cartoons. I got lucky as well. I got lucky with that. So who are some of your favorites you enjoyed watching growing up?
Well, my all-time favorite. male wrestlers, obviously Stone Cold Steve Austin, and for female Trish Stratus. Everything about Steve Austin, I love his attitude. I love his zero F's given attitude, especially with his feud with Vince McMahon. It's actually one of my personal favorite because he's just, against this whole corporate spiel, of course. But when it comes to like this whole situation of Steve Austin's kind of like a brief heel turn to join Vince, it was like, okay, what the hell's going on? I was a little girl, kind of like a bit heartbroken. But it was a really great like storyline between Steve Austin and Vince McMahon, of course. I would say my all-time favorite Steve Austin match would have to be his match against The Rock at WrestleMania 17. That's actually one of my favorite. That's like my all-time favorite WrestleMania, of course. And regarding with Trish Stratus, I know that she did start off as a manager, but then she became like a wrestler, and that's what I really love about her. Even though like she can be like a true diva, but also she can be a badass as well. And I would say my all-time favorite match from her is her match against Lita on Monday Night Raw when they actually main evented for the WWE Women's title. And of course, she did lose to Lita, which is fun because Lita is also another favorite wrestler growing up as well.
Yeah, Lita and Trish, they definitely led what I
Hmm
like to call the women's evolution in
hmm
wrestling because the stuff that they, especially Lita, I mean, before Lita came into the picture, I never saw a female doing a moonsault.
hmm
And she was doing all these innovative moves, and I was like, wow, like she is definitely, a future champion. And eventually she end up holding the championship as well. But Trish and Lita are definitely, I'd say their matches are definitely classics.
hmm
I'm pretty sure you'd probably agree with me, but one more thing I want them to do is have a run at those tag team titles. I would love that.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah, even if they don't win, I just want to see like
Hmm
because who are the tag team champions right now? Okay, Sasha Banks and Naomi.
Yeah, Sasha Naomi, yeah.
Not that they need the push, but it would be kind of cool to
hmm
see them hang with Trisha and Lita, and those two are just like friendship goals because they're still friends to this day. That's
hmm
the great thing. Like all
Yeah.
those years, you know, friends and foes, they're still cool with each other. Did you see the ride along?
Yes, I did.
That
It's pretty entertaining.
was funny. They stopped and went to a beach and just chilled. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you ever get to meet Trish and Lita or any of the superstars in person, or only you've only been able to see them on TV?
Well, I actually met like mostly former and current WWE superstars. This is like before they came back to WWE or like prior to because I've gone to a lot of different independent wrestling show and I can't remember. I have like countless of wrestlers that I met in the past. I did actually meet Cody Rhodes when he was in the Indies, and that was the time where he actually um, became the ROH World Champion. I actually met him twice. Such a great gentleman, and that happened back in 2017. I also met Chavo Guerrero Jr. in 2019. I also met John Morrison and Taya Valkyrie at the same year as well. Um, let's see, Rock and Road Express, such an amazing gentleman. And they actually let me hold two of the WWE Hall of Fame rings. And I must say, it's really heavy. Just putting it on like my ring finger is like, oh my God. Like I have a lot of pictures. Like it's mostly on my Instagram page, like wrestlers I've met, especially different shows. Um, who else did I meet that is like superstar caliber? I could also mention stars that I met in AEW as well. I also met Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus. I also met Sean Spears, the Lucha Brothers, of course. Who else? Oh, recently I could tell you who I met recently. So I met Minoru Suzuki last September. Very wise gentleman. I also met X Pac like back in February of this year. He's such a really chill guy, of course. Like meeting X Pac is like one of the biggest highlight I met this year. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I met a bunch of wrestlers, like, whatever shows I've gone to. And every time I met them, I can be a little bit of a fangirl, but then most of the time, like, I like to strike up, like, a quick conversation saying, how are you doing? Say, I'm a fan of your work. And, asking if they have a match, like, on the day of the show. I ask them, like, are you prepared and whatnot. So yeah, like I recently went to GCW and I met a couple of people. I met Impact Wrestling star who was also here in NWA Empower, Masha Slamovich. I also met Kid Bandit, so amazing. Um Nick Wayne, who else? Allie Catch, which she is one half of the GCW Tag Team Champion with FB. And also, I met Jack Hartwheel, who is a very rising star in the Indies, and also Dark Sheik as well.
That's cool. I
Mhm.
bet it's funny because you mentioned Kid Bandit.
Mhm.
Um, he came from the Nightmare Factory,
Yeah.
which is actually ran by Cody Rhodes and QT Marshall.
Mhm.
And we have had, maybe maybe this may be an overstatement if there's such a word, but we have had a history of actually interviewing a lot of the students from there because they're the future. And I remember
Mhm.
it was through one of our good friends, the Diamond Sheik,
Mm.
who, if you ever meet him, he's a real cool guy. I can't wait to see more of what he does in the ring. But it was through him that we actually got to know more about Nightmare Factory. And when Class 3, which is where Kid Bandit came out,
Mm.
the first thing I noticed was this guy with the colorful hair. Some people were talking about it here. It was mostly good. I can't. I don't even think there were any negative comments. But I was like,
Mhm.
you know what? People are talking about that guy's here, and I like his hair. I'm also a flamboyant person. I tend to wear some outlandish stuff every now and then. So I'm like, okay, you know something? I want to know that guy's story. I want to know what his story. I'm not. That's the thing about me. When everybody cracks jokes or they say things about somebody, about a wrestler or a fan, I'm that one guy that's like, I want to know what their story is. I'm sure there's some story, and lo and behold, we were able to get him on the show, and then we got the rest of his crew because he's in a stable called the Highlights with Ishmael Vaughn, who also came
Mhm.
from Nightmare Factory and Lola Electra, and very very amazing guy. He's definitely gonna go far, and I'm looking forward to seeing what and we just wanted to have him on because he put on a show. He puts on a show for us, so we want to have him on. You mentioned Jack Cartwheel. Jack
Mhm.
Cartwheel actually followed us on Twitter, and we were like, okay, wow, this guy is following us, and let's have him on. I mean, he's a wrestler. He sacrifices his health for us. Let's have him on. And then after that, all of a sudden, like we see Jack Cartwheels everywhere doing all these crazy flips, and he's on
Yep.
GCW. It's like, yeah, man, we're very happy for this guy, man. But you're in San Francisco, right?
I'm from a small town that is like an hour and a half from San Francisco, but 25 minutes away from Sacramento, but mostly in the Bay Area. So pretty much North Cal.
Okay. So the
Yeah.
reason why I asked I was going to ask you. I actually had the pleasure of experiencing wrestling in SoCal, more
Mhm.
particularly the Los Angeles area.
Yes.
And I gotta say, y'all, it was only one show that I went to. It was
Okay.
AWS in Southgate, and I enjoyed it. Y'all characters, the wrestlers from SoCal. I can't speak for NorCal. Kind of, I've been told NorCal and SoCal are two different worls, even though
Yeah.
they're in the same state. But the wrestlers from AWS, they were like so larger than life. It was like if Vince McMahon were to go there and start scouting, he'd probably want to take all of them and put them on NXT and Raw and SmackDown. But how was the wrestling scene over in NorCal. I've never been able to. I haven't had the privilege yet. I'm talking into existence. I'm speaking into existence. But how is the wrestling scene over there in the Bay Area?
I'm more than happy that you brought up to this subject because I also gone to shows in Southern California a couple times, mostly for GCW show, and I went to one like SoCal based show called LA Fights, but that was during the GCW Shot Caller weekend because they run their shows like for 2 days, and LA Fight like in like the same day the next day, of course. So I would say it all depends on the region, like how they have like the crowd energy goes. Like what I noticed, like when I went to GCW in San Francisco, and that's their first ever debut in the San Francisco Northern California region, is that a lot of the fans are pretty much hardcore. Like Southern California, pretty much same thing. But when it comes to North Cal, it's just more of like checking out like who are these towns are, and then they start to get warmed up and then start cheering it on. I know there's like different aspect based on different indie wrestling promotion, like more like towards family base, more for everybody, and then you have more for parties and all that. Like for Northern California, we have is West Coast Pro Wrestling Revolution, Hood Slam, Underground Wrestling Alliance, or UGWA for short. Also, Supreme Pro Wrestling, and a bunch of others in Northern California. And it's all about like who are you vibing with in within the scene, and also bringing the crowd energy too. Like with SoCal, they have like plethora of like independent wrestling companies. Like last I mentioned, in LA Fights, also PCW, PWG, of course, and
CWFL.
that too, and
I mean, sorry,
XPW.
CWFH, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. My bad.
Yes, that too. And also, like, we have like independent wrestling company that actually like travel to like different states, region, like GCW, for instance, also Wrestling Prestige. And it's like it all became like more of like who are you vibing with? Like SoCal, they cheer for like anybody they're rooting for, like bringing like the energy. And Northern California is like more a little bit more laid back, but then still getting wild, still getting rough, like representing us well. It what really makes me like, and I know people are chanting like West Coast or the coast, of course, because we're like in the Bay Area near the waters and stuff like that. But also just showing like, who we are, like in the Northern California region, just to based on that too. And like I mentioned, it is all based on like the different regions too, because I know California is like one of the largest states out there. So it kind of pretty much amazed me in that like, I don't have a pick and choose of which side. I mean, I'm a California girl. I'm born and raised here, and I'm a wrestling fan like anybody else too. Like I'm here to have fun, here to cheer and boo and whichever. So yeah, and you can tell my voice is still a little bit like, shot up a bit because of the screaming and yelling from this past Sunday show, but that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, y'all have a show.
Mm.
Y'all have a. You probably know about this one. Y'all have a tournament which I call the It's like their y'all's version of the ECWA Super 8 tournament, the Young Lions Cup tournament that's
Yeah.
over there in California. And I've
Mhm.
seen a lot of amazing talent um that have actually taken part in that. And I hope one day I could definitely get to actually attend. I think it's ran by Gold Rush Pro and another promotion, but y'all got a lot of great
Yeah.
shows over there. I definitely want to attend that one as well. Hopefully one day I can definitely
Yes.
make it happen as well.
Well, I gotta mention that because you did bring it up. We also have is another tournament that's gonna be coming up, first time ever from West Coast Pro Wrestling, which is called the West Coast Pro Wrestling Cup tournament. I think that's the name. And it's going to be a 2 day tournament event, which is going to be on August 18th and August 19th, which I know that West Coast Pro Wrestling, which the current owner is Scott Brigante. I hope I don't botch your last name. Don't come for me, Scotty. But it's starting to been promoted already too. So they're going to be announcing some stars like within the next couple weeks leading up to the
Ooh.
event as well. So it is going to be a pretty much a banger of a 2 night event.
Oh man, that sounds man.
Hmm.
I'm actually jealous, man, because I'm stuck over here in New York. I mean, granted, New York is New York. I don't know if you've
Hmm.
ever been over here and experienced the wrestling over here, but it's not a matter of if there's a wrestling show on this weekend. It's where do you want to watch it? Like for example, we have House of Glory
Hmm.
going on in Queens. Which, and if you were ever, I don't know if you've ever seen a House of Glory show live, but if you're ever in New York and you see a House of Glory show, I recommend it. Check it out. It's ran by the company is actually it's owned by Master P, the rapper, but
Okay.
the head trainer is a guy by the name you probably know him, the Amazing Red.
Yes, I heard about him.
Yeah.
Yes, and I've seen
So
him when he was in Impact Wrestling at the
yeah.
time.
So he's actually the head trainer there. So it I went to my first show last month. It was awesome. I'm like I gotta try to make this a thing more often. And there's a show actually going off this weekend, this Friday actually. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. But New York, they always have a show running every weekend, and that's the great thing about living over here
Hmm.
as well too. But yeah, that tournament sound West Coast Pro. That tournament sounds very great and very interesting. And hey, if it's on Fight TV, I'm gonna try to check it out. I don't know if it's on Title Match or Fight TV,
It's
but
on IWTV.
I'm gonna definitely have to check it out. I know whoever I'm looking at who's gonna be in it because man, I've seen so many great people like Jordan Blue, like
Hmm.
Jack Cartwheel, as you mentioned, and there's another guy. I don't know if you've heard of him, Rude Dragon,
Blue
another
Dragon,
guy
yes.
and then there's Kid Bandit. So I'm looking forward to seeing who's
Yeah.
gonna be on that show as well. So with that being said, I just got two more questions before I shut it down. So in regards to you've been doing this for pretty much 5 years now, the whole thing, the whole I guess you call it media content creator. I'm gonna call it media content creator. Let's say if you have a young woman or a young man saying, "Hey, Cindy, I want to do what you do." What advice would you give that person?
Well, I would say, well, there's a lot to go digest and give an advice, especially me being a female. First of all, always be yourself. Do not afraid to be nervous. Do not be afraid to if you're stuttering or even using the fillers or anything like that. As a female with a speech impediment growing up, I know it can be a very challenging situation, especially overcoming the fear. Don't get me wrong. Back then, I was a shy, quiet girl, and whenever I talk, of course, I get made fun of. And fun fact, English is actually my second language, even though I was born and raised here. But with this whole speech impediment and also the language barrier, it just helps me to practice more too. So that is one thing I would say, just be yourself, don't afraid of coming out of your shell too. And also make sure that whatever rude remarks, comments or anything like that, they're not real because I got a lot of trolls comment before, and then sometimes it did get to me prior to that. But I learned is that just don't take anything what they say very seriously and just roll with the punches as well. I know that I saw a video from one of my favorite YouTuber outside of the wrestling community. She did offer an advice saying that if there's any mean comments, just read the ones that actually post a very nice and thoughtful comment over and over again because whoever posted the mean comments has nothing better in their lives too for it. And also when it comes to being a female in this wrestling world, just showcase your true passion in wrestling. You don't have to just sugarcoat it or anything. Just say what you gotta say. Say it out loud. Who cares what people think? I have my fair share of being a very critical person when it comes to certain company that I'm very questionable about or certain situation, especially when it comes to WWS. Well, I've been nitpicking everything what they're doing because it is the fact. I have to say what I have to say, and it doesn't even matter, what if people like it or not, or agree or disagree as well. I mean, it all based on how we gotta be more vulnerable and how we can definitely like bring more into this whole like, our thought process and showing what we can do, especially when one true love is wrestling too. So that's what I would say to my advice to anybody, including females out there. Like I said, be yourself. Make sure just to read any positive affirmation from the comments. Avoid like anything that what the trolls are saying. Just don't be afraid to start out. Even though this gonna be a slow start, but just continue to do what you can do, and just remember just to have fun, enjoy being a wrestling fan.
Yeah, I must agree that the wrestling fandom, some of it, especially on Twitter, woo, can be very
Hmm.
toxic. And you know, y'all just got those y'all listen, you got some great advice from a 5-year vet that's been doing the damn thing. And with reputable, I guess, companies. I mean, no DQ, they've been around forever. So with reputable people, so you got it from her. And I'll even piggyback on that and say those mean comments that you get, always remember a lot of times when somebody says something mean to you, they're actually showing their own limitations. They're actually
Hmm.
showing that they can't get it. So they want you to be on the same level that they are, all miserable and unable to achieve the goals that they couldn't. But no, you're not meant to be on their level. Keep on striving, keep on flying high. And if you're a female, you love wrestling, you love wrestling. You know something? The funny thing is the same ones that actually say try to put you down are the same ones that are going to be looking for your autograph. Heaven forbid you actually. I mean, I shouldn't say heaven forbid, but let's say if heaven grants you the chance to go forward and be a professional wrestler, they're going to be one saying, "Yo, you did it! Yo, can I get your autograph? Can I get a picture?" The same ones that were doubting you. So just keep on doing you, man. Don't let nobody keep you down and so on. And like the old. I also recommend this spoken track that I listen to every now and then. It's called "Everybody Is Free to Wear Sunscreen." I know it sounds funny. You're telling us to wear, Remy. You're telling us to list the what you're telling us to listen to a song about sunscreen. No, it's not a song about sunscreen. It's a song about pretty much certain things that you should approach, certain things that you should actually take into consideration when dealing with life. And one of the things that it's a spoken word track, and one of the things that the I guess you could say the narrator actually said was, forget the insults, remember all the compliments you receive. So do that, and you'll be just fine. But my last question, Cindy, where do you see yourself in 5 years as a correspondent? Where I would like to see you personally. AEW hires Cindy G. I didn't ask your last name. So I'm not gonna ask your last name. AEW hires Cindy G as a correspondent, or Cindy G gets hired by MLW or WWE. I like to see people thrive. I like to see people work hard, and I'm always happy to be like, yeah, you could do this. Go, you got it. But where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, in 5 years, I just want to continue on to what I do, sharing my knowledge and my love for pro wrestling. Hopefully, like, when it comes to like, hopefully everybody can thrive. Hopefully the Daily Zone will thrive, continue on within the 5 years, or even my side project, which is like Adventures of Wrestling, which is like podcast slash YouTube channel or anything. Myself and alongside my closest best friend, Chris Larson, of course, continuing on to thrive, continuing. I mean, it will be great working with like different opportunity to like major companies as well. But I know to start off, you got to work somewhere first, like, with podcasts and maybe leading up to working with any independent wrestling promotion. I mean, personally, I would love to do ring announcing, but I know that you got to start from the bottom with training and just work your way up as well, too. I mean, that is something just to reflect on doing. And I know just to continue on to push it. Like, I mean, no matter what circumstances or what life going through, I just just got to continue on to just thrive and going forward, especially, how we are doing, like evolving, because I know wrestling has been evolving drastically over these past few years until now, too. But about what I would like to see myself in 5 years, that and also getting married, have kids on top of that, too. But like continue on to show, like, and, you know, my love and my true passion of wrestling too, especially being part of the industry too, one step at a time.
I'm gonna speak it into existence right now. I'm not gonna say if. When you become a ring announcer, young lady, we gonna be knocking on your door. Hey, Cindy, we gotta have you back on as a main guest. We gonna put your picture on there with the ringside site logo. Say, yeah, we got Cindy G back on our show, ring announcer for such and such, promotion. And yeah, man, I could. And hey, don't get it twisted. We interview ring announcers as well. We've interviewed like 3 of them or 4 of them. We actually had, I don't know if you know, a ringside rain. That actually did she ring announced one match for WWE at SummerSlam last year. We were like, oh really? Hey, Miss Ring, they
Wow.
talk to you. So yeah, because ring announcers, they let us know who we're seeing in the ring. So if we would interview Howard Finkel, God rest his soul. If we would
Hmm.
interview Justin Roberts, who else is ring announcing? Lillian Garcia. Why not a Cindy G? What's the
Hmm.
difference? So when that happens, trust me, we'll be knocking, and we've told people that have because we've had people that have been on this same segment, and we said, whenever you get into that business, whether you're a wrestler, a promoter, a ring announcer, referee, whatever, we're gonna be knocking on your door to have you back on our show, and we've stuck true to that. So I'm, you know, I'm wishing the best for you. I'm definitely rooting for you, Cindy. I'm not just saying
Thank
that because you're
you.
in front of my face. I like to. I'm always clapping for people whenever they get rewarded. So I wish all the great things. In professional wrestling, outside of professional wrestling. I wish you nothing but success. You're on a great roll. I'm actually honored to have you on the show. Hopefully, Chris, we can have you if you're still listening. We would love to have you on as well. Christopher, my bad. We'd like to have you on our show as well too if you're up for it. And I wish nothing but the best for you, nothing but the great things for you as well. And we hope to see more of you, you know, doing it big like it's nobody's business.
Thank you.
But
Appreciate it.
no problem, no problem. So before I shut the show down, where can fans find you on social media when they want to talk wrestling or when they want to check out, your rundown of AEW Dynamite and Rampage and even your reviews of other indie promotion events as well?
Alrighty, so you can catch me every Wednesday and sometime Wednesday or Thursday, that depends on the posting, and also Saturday on the Daily Slam, where me and Caro and sometime Noah Foster, we do cover AEW Dynamite, and also like on Saturday morning, Noah Foster and I, we cover AEW Rampage as well at the Daily Slam, or make sure to follow the Daily Slam on Twitter at Daily Slam 2022. And it's not just AEW, we cover everything wrestling, like reviews and recaps from WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, NXT, of course. Not just recap, but also podcast. And forgot to mention interviews, which Steve Paul did just interview like different wrestlers like Thunder Rosa, Warlow, also, I think he did interview different WWE superstar, but then there's going to be more coming up, so stay tuned for the announcement. Make sure to follow Steve Fall on Twitter at Steve Fall. But for me, of course, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at just_Cindy_G. Also, make sure to follow my other like content, Avengers and Wrestling at Avengers_in_wrestling. I'm going to be posting the Instagram reel of the GCW show I've gone to recently, and also the YouTube channel at Avengers and Wrestling as well, which we're probably going to be posting a podcast slash video sometime this week about my time in GCW as well. So, and also want to give a shout out to the ATW crew, Noah, Casey, Eric, Kid Bandit, Meg, Eric and everybody else in the ATW crew. You guys rock. And also the Daily Slam family, and also my close bestie Chris, and everybody as well.
Tell me you're gonna do that. Tell me you're gonna do a recap for that 2 day tournament, please, please, please.
I'm probably gonna try to be there. Depends if I get time off from work, but who knows?
Awesome. People,
Yes.
I keep telling you this. Those y'all that are listening, except for Chris and the rest of the gang, but for those y'all that are listening, that are watching, that don't know, if you're on the East Coast, watch the wrestling on the West Coast. You never know who's gonna be the next star coming from there. And if from the West Coast, same thing. Watch the same thing on the East Coast. When I was stationed in Japan, I was watching wrestling from both coasts and even the Midwest and in Texas from Japan. And that was through Fight and YouTube. So there's no excuse. Check it out. California is amazing. Has a great scene there. For those y'all that are here in New York, check out Cali. Trust me, you will be amazed. But with that being said, once again, Cindy, thank you. Christopher, please DM us. We would definitely like to have you on our show. Noah, if you're listening, you as well. Caro, shout out to you as well. Great meeting. Steve Fall as well. I know you're busy. You seem like a busy man. I've seen you on Instagram, on Twitter. Definitely hit us up. We definitely like to talk to y'all, talk some wrestling, talk some fandom. It's all love over here in Ringside Society. Nothing crazy. But with that being said, it's about time for us to shut this show down. My stomach is rumbling and my eyelids are getting heavy. That means it's time for a midnight snack and a nap. Maybe not in that order, but before I indulge in those activities, if you want to find me on social media, not that I have anything cool to say, but who knows? Maybe you get lucky and hear me say something cool. You can find me on Twitter at the Remy Blue. You can find me on Instagram now at the Remy Blue, and you can also find me on Facebook under the alias Remy Blue. You guessed it. So definitely, add me on those social media platforms as well. Our podcast is also on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Ringside Society. We have a Facebook group called Ringside Society. We're also on Twitch at Ringside Society 2019. We're also on Blog Talk Radio, Spotify, and we are also on YouTube, where you can find most of our wrestling content. For now, we we have a lot of great interviews like this one. We actually had Caro Taro on our show. You can find that interview there as well. And we've also had great wrestler interviews like with Katie Hebner, the daughter of legendary referee Earl Hebner, undeniable Michael Martinez, the brother of Damian Priest, Kid Bandit, Ishmael Vaughn, Lola Electra, and several other great people that are in the wrestling industry. So go ahead to YouTube, type in Ringside Society. Once you see that sweet OMG dark blue and light blue yin yang sign with the blue flames around it, that's when you know it's us. Subscribe to all of our videos because you don't want to miss a thing like Aerosmith in 1998. But with that being said, I just want to thank everybody that tuned in tonight live. We really appreciate it. Myself, Kathy Knight, my other co-host, and Rob Bass, my other co-host who couldn't be here tonight. We really and truly are grateful. We know we're not the best, but we try to bring you some of the best content that a wrestling fan can watch and listen to. So those of y'all that are going to listen to us later on, thank you very much in advance. And those of y'all that hate us, can't stand us, really and truly wish we'd go away, well, like myself at the Golden Corral, we're not going anywhere for a while. But I just want to let y'all know that we here at Ringside Society, we're very well aware. We know that everybody and their grandparents and their parents have a podcast, but we're not your grandparents' podcast. We're not your parents' podcast. As a matter of fact, we're not just any podcast. So with that being said, one time for the mind, one time for the people, one time for the wrestling culture, and one time for our phenomenal guest who is doing great things and is going to be one of the best ring announcers. I'm speaking it into existence. She's gonna be one of the best wrestling ring announcers, Cindy G of the Daily Slam. We're the Wrestling Fans Podcast, Ringside Society, and we will be back next week with more great guests, with more great episodes. But until then, I just want y'all to do four, and I mean four favors for us. Stay safe, stay healthy, be excellent to each other, and party on, dudes. We out. Peace.
Cheers, y'all.